Folks, this is my whole life. 20 years in the corporate world, up into general management, 25 years, 26 years now in the cruise business. The business component that I'm responsible for, in addition to working groups, one of the brands does 50 to 60% in group business. It didn't take me long to figure out that the place to have more fun in this business and diversify myself was in the group arena. I've been training people on what not to do for approximately 20 of the 25, 26 years I've been here, and I have experienced every aspect of the group cruise business. Now, what does that mean? Experience is what you give, the name that you give to the mistakes that you make along the way. My goal here is to define the concept and the benefit of group business, to show you that Cruise Brothers has a system in place right now and the tools to help you make this happen. And I'm going to tell you, if you're not riding your team leaders hard and holding them accountable to understand this stuff and to be supportive of you in the group arena, start doing that right now. The biggest piece of this whole thing, though, is to motivate you to go home and do something. 10,200, 6,800, 5,100, 4,978, down to 3,373. These numbers are the numbers that people sitting out where you are made by doing one single group the year before last. Why did I not change this year? Because I looked at the numbers this year and they were basically the same. 10,500, there was another 6,000 in there. Friday night before I left, I had a woman who was a group leader for us, an agent for us, who wanted to go to her accountant while I was away. So she said, can you stick around and figure out what my group, which is leaving in March, is going to do money-wise for me so I can talk to my accountant about this. I did the math, and she is going to make something between $12,500 and $12,700 on one group that's right now has 144 passengers in it. This is you, if you're going to be successful in this business, in the group business. You have a system to support the business. That's us. You prepare well. We help you with that. You clean up before you go to talk to the people that influence the decision-making process for groups. Access to quality material, we help with that. I'll show you some of that as we move along. You qualify. What does that mean? You ask questions, understand the needs, wants, and interests. You'll hear that a lot from me. You manage projects well. You deal with rejection. Guys, you're all married? Yeah. Okay. It's the same, it's just from different people. It's not funny. This poor guy sitting over here saying, it's like he lives with me. The most important thing, you go after the business. You go out and get it. There are two things that you look for with a group. Are there people out there that can go on this group? Can they do it financially and time-wise? That's one. Can they go? Two, do they want to go? And we'll explain along the way how you'll determine if they want to go. Why don't people do group business? They don't understand the concept. They don't understand the benefit. They don't know how to do it. And many, many travel agents just sit there and wait for the phone to ring. They're looking at the thing, shaking, looks like it might ring. They forget that the phone rings out as well, or calls out as well. So they don't go after the business. Now, I don't mean it's easier to get the group business. I mean, once you've gotten the group, it's an easier sell. We talked before about the person that says, I think I may want to go in June, but I go in July, but I might go in September if it's less expensive, and I think I'll do the Eastern Caribbean, but if you can get me a better price on the Southern, maybe I'll do that, and I would like prices on the balcony, the ocean view, and inside just in case. You do group business, that goes away. Two questions. What category would you like, and how would you like to deposit on it? Less competition. Once you get the group, it's easier to sell. Less people are going out there after group business because it's a little bit more complex. What you've got here is the benefit of the Cruz Brothers system to help you through this. Groups will attract first-timers. You'll hear that, I've never cruised before, I don't want to cruise, I wouldn't like that, I'll gain weight, it's confining, there'll be nothing to do. Well, the Elks are going on a cruise. Your fellow Elk says, come on, John, you're going to have a good time. Let's go do this. He said, I don't want to go on a cruise. Come on, everybody else is going. What happens is he winds up going the first time, likes it. Geez, I didn't realize I'd like that. Now what have you got? You got a repeater. They come back. Groups boost slow periods. It's not so much for you as it is for agencies, smaller agencies, and salespeople. What I mean by this is, if September, October, November, December is typically a slow time in a travel agency's business, if you plan a couple of seniors groups during that period of time, you can fill in, start to flatten out your business and kind of just smooth out the ups and downs, the curves. If the people are old enough, you can convince them it's the middle of the summer. And they'll cruise in September, October, November.
It's summer somewhere.
It's summer somewhere. It diversifies your life. What does that mean? This retail stuff is great, but it can get a little bit mundane, and those of you who've done this for a while, you know what I'm talking about. When I started doing groups, I started doing a much more interesting type of travel business. I do the cruise for the guy that wrote the Zone Diet book. I didn't know the difference between a carburetor and a carbohydrate before I started with him. I've learned so much about nutrition that I just can't begin to tell you how much. We did an alcohol recovery cruise for many, many years with two nuns from the Bronx. It sounds funny, but it's a true story. They were retreat leaders who like to go on cruises, so they did like 40 retreats a year, and what they did was decided to take one of their retreats every year on a cruise ship. And so what did that do? It got them a cruise, which they like to do, and it got people who have a certain challenge in life the opportunity to go on a vacation and understand that if they felt vulnerable, there was support there. There was the support of the two nuns, but there was also the support of the other people that were cruising with them that helped keep them on the straight and narrow in an environment where there's lots of opportunity to fall off the wagon. What did it do for me? In the process, I learned so much about people dealing with issues and dependency and other things. It made me a broader person. I can go on and on with the seminars that we've done and other things that we've done, that I've been a part of, that have enhanced my life. So when I say it's going to diversify your life, once you do one of these, you'll see what I'm talking about. And guess what? You'll be looking for more. The other thing that Kerry's talked about along the way is it differentiates you. What I mean by that is it sets you apart from the rest of the crowd. I have never, since I got into this business, told people that I was a travel agent. Not once, because I'm not. I run events on ships. The byproduct is that our agency was used to administer, to make that happen. Group sales process is a bit different. You find them, you arrange a meeting, you do the research, you generate a proposal if a proposal is necessary. It can be something that is as complex as a full color proposal. If you've got a big group, we have this capability resident within the business. It can be something as simple as a letter or an email. Proposal. Make the presentation, close the sale. I'm going to talk to you about a close, and I'm going to tell you in this business, if you do this stuff right, if you do the first few steps in the process right, it comes very close to closing itself. Market the cruise. Mike talked about promotional flyers. In this business, really what you're doing is finding a way to get the message out, helping the group leader do it. The difference between making a retail booking and a group booking is that with a retail booking, once you get the commitment, you've got the sale. In the group environment, once you get the group leader commitment, what you've got to do next is help to make sure that that group leader puts bodies in beds. This is all about, in the group business, remember the term, bodies in beds. You're going to administer the group along the way. Agent Mate used to be Cruise Web. And then you're going to manage onboard activities. When I go on a group, I have my traveling office with me. This is my onboard group escort manual for the Oldies Music Cruise that we did this year. It's got everything in it that I did from the time I got the group commitment to the time we sail. So when the cruise line says, we have no record of that. They never sent us the dining plan. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. I say, oh, yes, we did. It's right here in my little book. We'll show you how to do that as well. I'm going to pound this one home again. You better know the answers to the 3 questions, because it is the fiber of your being in this business. Why a cruise? Why Cruise Brothers? And why you? And as I've said before, the newer you are in this business, the more important it is that you play on number 2 up there. Why Cruise Brothers? If you're ready, when the opportunity presents itself, what's going to happen? Somebody say something. You're going to get the business. Why Cruise Brothers in the group environment is a little bit different than why Cruise Brothers in the FIT environment. What Cruise Brothers has gives group leaders a level of comfort and security. A system, a long time in the business, big. National marketing partnerships. I play on this all the time. Industry's best buying power. It doesn't mean you're going to get a lower price than anybody else necessarily, but you're right there, you'll be able to compete. The ability to support unique group requirements, and we have gotten that over the years. We do that. We know how to do that. Why you? It's a little bit different in this environment than it is in the FIT arena. You're part of a team and supported by a group that is more than a travel agency. I told you this before. Not once since I got into this business have I defined myself as a travel agent. What you are is a matchmaker. What is a matchmaker? A matchmaker is somebody who understands the needs, the wants, and the interests of the client, and if you don't do that, then the client becomes the victim, and now can take the understanding of the needs, wants, and interests, and you now have the product knowledge to go match those 2 up, the client's needs, wants, and interests, and the product that best suits the needs. And if you don't know for sure what the product is that will fulfill those needs, as I said yesterday, you're sitting right next to somebody who does. You're part of a group that will negotiate on behalf of the group leader and his people. You market, hand out flyers, post on Facebook, make presentations. Are you all friendly, comfortable with making presentation, public presentation? Anybody who's not? Anybody who's not telling the truth? That's what I figured. Yeah. You are a group administrator. Sometimes that's as simple as just running off the Cruise Web report, the Agent Mate report that gives you the rooming list and the passenger in alphabetical order list. You are part of a team that plans and manages events on ships. What we are doing here, this is the stuff we do. The reasons people don't do it, the fear of the unknown. You've got people, you've got team leaders here that eliminate the unknown. So you should be able to go out, and you don't have to present yourself right away as the group know-it-all. I'm part of a team. I've got a group of people behind me, a team behind me that lives this stuff every single day. We're going to talk about the specifics now of the group characteristics. The common bond. Something appeals to the potential marketplace and draws them in, makes them want to come. Is it spiritual? Is it emotional? Is it physical? Is it a financial seminar at sea? Are you doing recertification for people who need to recertify in their skill or their trade every couple of years? Those things can be done on ships. Or are you a member of the Elks, in which case it's a social event and you just go and drink until you can't see anymore. Large audience. You need a large group of people to go out and get your message to. If you've got an organization that has 5 members, chances are pretty good your maximum market potential is 10 people. The 5 members and their traveling companion. Not something I'd get terribly excited about, but certainly wouldn't turn my back on it. If you've got an organization that's got 5,000 members and they have a way of reaching those members, you got something. You got something that's good there. I had an author come to me, and I forget the book he wrote. The guy from Seattle wrote something about, I don't even remember, but the reason I don't remember is because he wasn't relevant in my life, because what he had was the notoriety of having been published. What he didn't have was a large target audience to go after, because he had no database. I didn't do it. He wanted us to put him on a ship and us to promote the cruise for him and go develop a market and a presence that put bodies in bed so he could go on a free cruise. Don't do it. Don't do it. The job of the group leader in the organization is to give you access to the audience so that, in effect, they are putting the bodies in the beds. History of travel. It's really helpful if an organization has traveled before. If you've got a group that last year traveled with 120 people, did a 7-night cruise, and the average price was $1,400 a piece, chances are that group is going to go back and do something similar again. So there's a history there. So the history of travel is really important, but not critical. The first year I did the Zone Diet cruise, we'll talk about time in a few minutes here, but I look at 1 year as the timeline that I use to develop a group and get things going. They came to me and it was 6 months from the date they wanted to cruise. And I said, 6 months? That's not enough time. And Dr. Sears, the author, his brother, said he's pretty hot right now. He's got 2 books in the New York Times bestseller list. So, okay, we'll give it a shot. So 6 months, 276 people. Yeah. So it's the old story. I was reluctant, but as I said yesterday, the fact that you don't like a green car doesn't mean somebody else doesn't want to buy a green car. I think 12 months is important. They wanted to do 6. Guess what? They did 6, and they did it well. The ability to travel. Couple things here. A family situation that allows them to do it, the discretionary income that allows them to do it. There's a group in Massachusetts called the Portuguese Kids. This is a comedy routine. It's a comedy troupe. They fill halls with 500-600 people doing these supper shows. The show, the comedy show, and then with a meal that goes along with it. Very, very popular. The issue and why they didn't work out well for us is their primary audience is 25 to 40-year-olds, and their money is going in another direction, and they've got young kids. So the fact that they could go out and spend $100 one night doing this show didn't mean that they were going to spend $2,500 or could spend $2,500 on a cruise. So that wasn't as popular as we hoped, and that's why. So Ability to travel, critical. Mailing is important, but it's also expensive. Email addresses, really important. If they've got a newsletter, they've got a website, if they do group meetings, Facebook page. These are the ways you communicate the cruise to people. I use 12 months as my guideline working with groups. If somebody says, it's 15 months out and I want to plan a cruise, do I say, no, you call me back in 3 months? No. Every time we get forced into doing something we don't want to do or we're not hard on, though, it comes back and becomes more difficult. Mike and I went through an exercise where we got talked into doing a close-in thing, and we did it because we think the group has other potential. It turned out not to produce the bodies we wanted, and it created some other hassles because we were in a close-in window. We did it for good reason, but if it was a standalone situation, we would have said, we need more time to get this off the ground. Strong group leader, really important. The more popular, the more energetic, the more dynamic he or she is, the greater the potential for success. We work with this guy in Florida, and he's a big dude. Clean pools. He's a retired military guy. Clean pools, so he had all the stuff that the chemicals from the pool would do to you, like all of the open red sores. Not a very attractive guy, not a very appealing guy. Kind of a gruff character, too. Not the kind of guy that you would identify as a group leader. But when he travels, he brings between 60 and 220 people with him, depending on what he does. Why? Because the people know that he's an organizer, he's got things buttoned down, he's going to take care of them. So they trust him. It gives them a comfort level, a feeling of comfort traveling with him. So when you're looking at these people, these group leaders, get to know them a little in their characteristics. Don't just look at somebody like I almost did and say, that one's not going to work. Because there are reasons people are traveling with these people, and it's not always what you think it is. A reasonable group leader. What does this mean? It means somebody who doesn't expect that he's going to put 50 people on a ship with you and be able to bring a traveling party of 20 people along free as a result. We do music groups, and we have a formula. I can pretty much stand here and say, based on accommodating somebody in an inside room, I can pretty much pull out what it's going to take in terms of passengers to cover the cost of accommodating the group. So I'll give you an example. We've got a group that it's a music group, and they want to accommodate 10 people traveling. And I do the math on that, and pretty quickly I can figure out it's going to take about 115, 120 passengers to accommodate them. If they didn't do 115, 120 passengers, there would be a problem because they wouldn't have earned enough in the way of tour conductors and applying bonus commission to cover the cost of accommodating that group. We had another band come to us, and they've got 20 people they've got to accommodate. They're musicians, the singers, and the sound tech. 20 people, I did the math on that. I said, we can't do it because it's going to take 225, 230 people in a music group to cover the cost there. And we hadn't seen anywhere along the way with any other group we'd done a history that told us that would happen. They didn't have a bigger database. They didn't perform any more gigs than the other groups, so they were no more popular. So we said we just can't make it work. Unrealistic expectations. One more time. Most important slide in the whole presentation. Learn to think with your head and your calculator, not your heart and your emotions. Find somebody within the organization, your team leader, that can help you do the math to tell you that this is going to make sense or not. When you start thinking about groups, find this slide and go after it, go over it again, again, and again. I've been asked, where do I find these groups? They are everywhere. They are everywhere. You need to know, though, that you are not going to walk in to somebody's office business, whatever, a group leader, and say, I've got really good news for you. I just decided to do groups, and now I'm here to save you. Aren't you lucky? And the reason for this is that people who are taking groups out, people who are group leaders, have already been discovered by your friendly competitor. So what do? You're lying in the weeds. You make yourself known, you brand yourself, you keep yourself visible with potential group leaders. Because history says that an organization is going to do a group 2 or 3 times before the group is lost. There's a lady here who was telling me about her Royal Caribbean group. Dining issue. A dining issue on the group, and it wasn't her fault. It was something Royal Caribbean did or didn't do, but it looks like the group is going to go with somebody else now because it's the thing got screwed up. So what happens is we get complacent. We think because we've done a group for a couple years that we own that group. We don't. And when you think that way, I'm right behind you, just waiting for you to make the next little mistake. When you think that way, you're going to lose them. So it's either going to be something you did or didn't do. You tried to take a little bit too much money, you made the group leader look bad, or it's going to be something that happened beyond your control. So don't get frustrated when the first week that you're out there pursuing groups, you don't get 2, 3, 5 opportunities. Probably not going to happen. Put yourself out there. Let the world know what you do. Brand yourself. Start to brand yourself as a group specialist. And eventually they'll come your way. The purpose of this is just to let you know that the opportunities are everywhere. My favorites, seniors organizations. Seminars at sea. I love the music theme cruises. The challenge with the music theme cruises is, as I said before though, it takes a lot of passengers to cover the cost of accommodating the group. One big reason I like music groups, I love the music. I'm a big doo-wop fan, big Motown, big oldies fan. Another big reason I like the music groups, they don't make you get up and attend things at 8 o'clock in the morning. So there.
Very true.
I'm teasing him, obviously. But the list goes on. They're out there. You just have to go. Just go out and look around and just go find them. Where do I find group opportunities? Chamber of Commerce. Go play around in a library. Read newspapers. We got a guy up in the Boston area who'll be reading something about an organization in a newspaper. A classic example, AIDS Care Ocean State. An organization that raises money to benefit people who are impacted directly or indirectly by AIDS. The guy picks up the phone, says, I read about your organization. I think we might be able to help you. We wind up with a group. First year it did 42 people. He made over $3,500 on that in the first group. And because the group leader, we didn't have many people required to accommodate, it was just the group leader and his partner. We didn't have a big nut to cover in terms of cost to accommodate the group. So we wrote a check to the organization. Group leader got paid. Agent got paid, I should say. Group leader went on a cruise. Everybody was happy. Why? He was reading an article and picked up the phone. I'll give you another example. Anybody familiar with the station fire in Warwick, Rhode Island, back 11, 12 years ago, killed 100 people? We're doing a fundraising cruise to benefit the foundation with them. Why? Because a guy took the initiative to pick up the phone, call the organization, say, hey, I got an idea. You've got people who are supporting you that are going on vacation. Why not suggest they go on vacation with us? We'll do a little bit of a program on the foundation. You'll raise some money. We just started that, so I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm pretty confident that's going to be, I'm pretty confident that's going to be a big one. Let's talk about group leaders and groups. 90% of us belong to an organization. 90% of us belong to at least one organization. There are still 50,000 some odd group leaders wandering around the United States. They do an average of 6 groups a year. At least one is a cruise. And they do an average of 27 passengers. Groups of 27 people, there's only one problem with it. The only problem with a group of 27 people is that you can't do that once a week. These are beautiful groups. They're manageable. They're not going to suck your energy and time out. And again, what category? How do you want to deposit? I'm a big fan of the seniors groups. They're a large part of the population. They've got money, they've got time, and they are really, really attracted by escorted groups. Why? I'm going to do a module on escorting tomorrow. They're attracted by escorted groups because it gives them the feeling of security. Fundraisers. Everybody's looking to raise money for something. We talked about the station fire. We talked about AIDS Care Ocean State. I've been doing the Massachusetts Elks as a fundraiser for about 20 years now. We've raised over $300,000 for them on a gross basis. So when somebody says, well, what do you do? How do you do it? Someplace here I have a book, part of our fundraising system program. I'll show it to you after I'm done with this, but we've got a system in place to do it. We can show you how to do it. We can show you how to make money for you and how to make money for the organization. The number of people that will come along on a seminar at sea is based on the perception of the target audience, the perception of the audience regarding the speaker's ability to impact their lives. The people who go with Dr. Sears, the zone guy, they go because he's made a difference in their life. They tell their friends come along. They get 2 things out of this. They get a really solid week of powerful, impactful seminars, but we also work with the cruise line to zone the menu. So what we're doing is we're customizing the menu so that people who are in the program to lose weight or have been losing weight, they can go off on vacation and not have to worry about coming back 7 or 8 or 10 or in some cases 15 pounds heavier than they were when they were at home. It's the same idea as the alcohol recovery cruise. You're giving the people the opportunity to go away and have a vacation and stick with whatever program they are involved with. School vacation groups. If I were you, this is the place I would start. And I would look at what Cruise Brothers has blocked for group space and sell into that. Maybe grab my own group and control the group myself and sell into it. This one doesn't take any special expertise. If you know what the vacation schedules are, you know when the teachers and the administrators have to travel. One thing to bear in mind, though, it's a good idea to have something blocked for families that will be traveling in those weeks and for teachers and administrators. And they probably are different products. Any teachers in the room? Any retired teachers? It's probably true that when you went on vacation, you didn't want to be around those little rascals. There it is. So they're great when we're in school. When I go away, I won't tell many people this, but I want to get away from them. Simple reality. Yeah. So think about that when you're thinking about school vacation groups. Line that appeals to the families, a line that more likely appeals to the administrators and the teachers. The lines will tell you they appeal to everybody. Every single cruise line will tell you that their average age is 49.
Every single one.
Every single one. Average age is 49, and we go across the spectrum. We appeal to everyone. Do your research, do your homework, and you'll find out it ain't true. So, group opportunities, they're everywhere. The sources are everywhere. The group leaders are everywhere. It's just your job to make your community aware of what you do. What I have here is my version of a business card. It's bigger than a regular business card because it's got stuff on it. What this is really, as a group person, your whole sales presentation. Specialize in selecting, planning, marketing, and administering cruises for groups. Talks about the Cruise Brothers history, contact information, the specific services we provide on the back. This is not a very attractive piece. I know that. I'm not very creative. I write okay, but I don't do the really jazzy stuff with the computer and Photoshop and all. This bland card has gotten me more business over the years than I can tell you about. Lots and lots of business. Because it is differentiating me and talking about what I do. Maybe, Kerry's not here now, but maybe what we could do, and this will be up to David, is have Kerry jazz this up from an appearance perspective and print off a big bunch, like a big batch of these things in color, and leave the contact block on the back open, and we can design a template so we can send them to people in 8.5 by 11 sheets so they can run over to Staples with the, and just print your contact information in. So I just thought of that this morning, and that might be a way to. I've only got 4 or 5 of these, but let's run them around the room and just take a look at what we're talking about there. And you can screw this up if you're not careful. It's important to know who's making the decisions on behalf of the group. And I'm going to give you an example of screwing one up. 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a little bit more, 5 years ago, we were in the planning cycle process with the Massachusetts Elks. So we were doing a luncheon meeting with the chairperson for the Elks and the incoming president. So I show up at the restaurant, and you know who's buying, obviously it's me. So they show up and they've got their wives with them. So I'm thinking to myself, this is good. First of all, they don't look like they need another meal. And second, why are they there for an Elks organization meeting? But I'm smart enough to keep my mouth shut. Comes to find out that the incoming president's wife has endured a lot while he's been in the organization over the years, and he is letting her make the choice on the cruise as a way of saying thank you for being so supportive of him and his participation in the organization for the time he's been there. So I could very easily have really screwed that up, where she went home and said, honey, lose this guy. So that's an example of what not to do and what I almost did. So you've got to find a way, when it's not obvious, of understanding who is the group leader and who is the decision maker, and are they the same? And you can't say, look, I don't have that much time, so if you're not the person, like, let's get this over with so I can move on to the right person. That's not the way it's going to work either. But you can gently probe and say things like, are you doing this by committee? Or I'd just like to know the process. Is there anybody else going to be involved in the decision? And in a casual conversation, pull out who that person is going to be. You do your job right in the information gathering process, and you are 75% of the way toward the close. So for those of you who are not comfortable with any kind of pressure selling stuff, I'm going to say again, it's not necessary. It is not necessary. You want to find out why, where, and when, and how you can paint the picture that says you're going to help them do a better job. Your motive is happy group leaders. Happy group leaders become happy group leaders when they have happy groupies. And the happy groupies come back when they're happy. That makes the group leader happy, and that means repeat business for you. In this arena as well, it's a lot easier to hold a group for the second time, third time around if you don't get sloppy than it is to go out and get a new group. So when you get these, protect them. Pay attention to these people. Become close to them. Become friendly with them. Open up with them. Share things that are going on. We have a group profile sheet that we use to gather information about groups. I would record your information on that form. Keep it in writing so you've got it, obviously. Ask questions and listen. Ask questions and listen. Ask questions and listen. In this process, once you're there, set a time frame to present a couple of options. Don't box yourself in. If you are sitting there talking to this group leader and you know right now that the answer to all of his questions, all of his desires, is the Norwegian Dawn sailing Boston to Bermuda on May 26, 2017, even though you know that, don't say that to him. Say, I've got a couple of ideas that I think are going to work with you. Why are you not saying that? Because if... Well, what do you do if the ship's not available? Now you got to go back and say, I got great news. Your second choice is available. There is always going to be more than one option to satisfy a group's needs. So one more time, don't box yourself in. The other thing I do all the time, even if I know there's... even if I'm 95% of the way there, I'll say, I want to go back to the office and talk to our people, share what I've learned about what it is you want to do, and talk to our people and see if anybody else has got an idea that I might not have thought of. What is it doing? Even if it's you and Fido in the office, you're telling him you got an organization, and you care enough about what's going on and getting it right for him that you want to share the needs, wants, and interests with other people. Little techniques that just work to help you get the business, help you solidify. Let's talk about the cruise lines and moving the process along. I'm going to say to you that doing group business, there are some cruise lines that I find to be much more group friendly than others, and some that I find not to be group friendly at all. Let's talk about them.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. More than one good fit, almost always. Every cruise line will tell you they're a great group partner and they want the business. They don't all act like it, though. So I consider lines that meet the group's needs, wants, and interests and are group friendly, which means they'll work with us. I find that on the friendly side of the equation, there's Norwegian, Celebrity, and Holland America. I find that on the less friendly side of the equation, there is Princess, Royal Caribbean, and Carnival. Now, we do a lot of business. Our biggest vendor on the cruise business, in the cruise business, is Royal Caribbean. They are close to Holland America to being in the top side of the list. The other two that I talked about, they're just plain more difficult to deal with. Bear in mind, when you're doing what you're doing, the cruise lines are going to have more flexibility on softer sailing dates. So you're always going to get more out of a cruise line if it's right after New Year's or September through the end of the year. People are nervous about things like, I can't even say the word hurricane because it doesn't exist in my vocabulary in the cruise business, but that's one of the things that people are worried about. September through October, November. The other thing is the holidays come into play. So if you've got a group that's got the flexibility to be able to travel September through the end of the year, you can plan on more flexibility. I will tell you that no doesn't always mean no. And what I mean by that is you might have certain concessions that you need to make a group work. And you might go to the group department and they'll talk to the revenue management team and they'll say, we can't do this. Well, we don't necessarily accept that response if we know this is the line that is best suited to our needs, we might go back to the rep, and this is where your team leader comes in. We might go back to the rep and say, is there a way we can get a little bit more concession out of the other pocket? We know you can't give it to us in terms of the revenue people giving us a discount, but if you got some other fund that we can take money out of, because as long as you've got it, you don't care what pocket it comes out of. So we go back and we look for ways to accomplish what we need to do, and if the first answer is no and it's a good partner, we might approach it in a slightly different way and go back again and see if we can, and this has worked for me, I can't tell you how many times. The process for you is 90 to 95% of the time you are going to do the standard blocking group space routine. You're going to block an allocation in the categories in the mix that you project, find out what amenities you've got, request a group contract, and the other thing you're going to do is read the terms and conditions so you know what the ground rules are. The other 5 to 10% of the time, if the group is complex and has special and significant needs, we're going to pull the UBM team in to the plan for you. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring a different kind of skill set into the equation so that you have people looking after your needs, wants, and interests, and the clients as well. What we do in this situation, we get involved. As a rule, for us to get involved, the group has to have a very real potential, I mean real potential, to do a minimum of 50 passengers on a 7-night cruise, and if it's a 4 or 5 night cruise, 100 passengers. Otherwise, the money just isn't there for us. At any point in time, I'll be working on 25 to 30 groups. So we need to be selective about what happens and what we look at. The process must, if you think the UBM team needs to be involved, it must go through your team leader. There are 2 reasons for that. Team leader will help in the qualification, and anything we're doing where an agent's involved, we want to make absolutely sure the team leader is part of that equation. Assist in reconfirming the group's viability. Make sure that you're thinking with your calculator and your head, not your heart. We'll do financial modeling. We will capture. The biggest thing we find with folks that are in the business that you're in, doing the things you're doing, is they don't understand how to capture all the costs and everything that's going on that's built into the equation. We do that. If there's a cost, if somebody says, I want to give these people baseball caps, there's a cost associated with that. That falls into a spreadsheet. So we do the financial modeling to make sure that you're not getting in trouble, we're not getting in trouble. If necessary, we submit a group concession request, which is the document that asks for 3 things. 1 is an allocation of rooms. 2 is the availability of a venue that we might need to fulfill the group's needs, like this conference room. If this conference room is not available, as it wasn't last year, we wind up in a restaurant, which is not nearly as good as this. So the concession request, stateroom allocation, venue, and we look for additionally getting concessions that might sweeten the pot a little bit, whether it's bonus commission or enhanced tour conductors, et cetera, et cetera. And the way we negotiate these things, just so you know, is we'll run one cruise line against the other. So I'll run over to Princess and say, I think you're going to get this business if you'll just give us this. And I'll run over to NCL and say, I think you're going to get this business if you'll just give us this. And we play them, negotiate back and forth, and then we get what we get. And I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. But when we get what we get, then we go to the group leader and we say, here it is. I'll get to that in a couple of minutes. But that's the way the process works. We do the group proposal, we do a group leader agreement. My whole thing in this business, too, is that if you don't have it in writing, you don't have it. The lady that had her dining challenge with Royal Caribbean, she knew she had contacted him and this is what she did, but she didn't get the name of the person. She didn't have a confirmation, so she knew she had it, but she didn't have it. It's not intended for you to see what's there. It's up here just so that you understand that this is the complexity with which we approach a group. We capture the cost, we capture the commission potential, the revenue potential, arrive at a sell price, and then we know exactly what our commission is going to be. It defines the details of our offer, it helps establish your credibility, and it initiates the close. I showed you what the proposal looked like. Here's a shot of another proposal. I'm telling you, if you do your homework, this is not as difficult as it might seem. You don't need gimmicks, you don't need high pressure, you don't need fancy sales approaches. If you understand what the group leader is looking for and you'll fulfill those needs, and you touch that group leader along the way, remember I talked to you about the 4-touch rule? You touch that group leader along the way, it might be as simple as, makes sense to me, what do you think? What I'm telling you is if it takes a little bit of violence, so be it. The UBM team is going to confirm all this in writing. If we do it, we'll generate a group leader agreement. We'll have terminology in our agreement that is at least as strong as what's in the cruise line terms and conditions. We'll make the group leader sign the agreement so that when something gets confused along the way, we can say, well, Ms. or Mr. Group Leader, here it is. We talked about this. It's in the agreement. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We talked about marketing earlier, customized flyers, res forms. It's not complicated. It's just a matter of getting your message out there. Let's summarize. What we talked about was the Cruise Brothers advantage, and you need to play that hard. We talked about preparing to approach the group market, the 3 questions. You need answers to those. You need answers. You've got to have it ready when people ask. We talked about special interest group characteristics, and I'll tell you one more time, that's the most important slide in the presentation. The opportunities are everywhere. In terms of contacting potential group people, pick up the phone, call them, or if you don't want to do that, there are letters on the website, sample letters that we've generated along the way that are pretty much adaptable to anything you'd want to do. I'd find organizations and I'd send out 15, 20 letters a week, and if we customize that long business card, throw that in because that tells the world in a simple format what we do. We talked about the group leader meeting and what's involved there. Selecting the lines, the team leaders can help you with all of that. The group concession request, we got a system for it, it's in place. Proposals, obtaining the commitment, it's all right here for you. We've got this system in place. Hold your team leader accountable. It's really up to you. You see that we've got the system. It's not important that you know every step of this, every step of the way. What is important is that you know where to go to find the answers. It all starts with your team leader. Cruise Brothers makes a group system available to you. It's proven itself time and again. It works. It will work for you if you give it a chance. Does anybody know who Myron Flutterlips is? No, me either. Thank you very much.